A test is in order. 5 enhanced clones, more capable than an army. Yet they exhibit a concerning level of disobedience and disregard for orders.
What else you got? Give me more!
Star Wars: The Bad Batch is an animated series set in the immediate aftermath of the Clone Wars, using that fragile transition period to explore how the galaxy shifts from a republic built on ideals to an empire ruled by fear and control. The story centers on a small, unconventional group of clone troopers whose genetic mutations set them apart from the rest of the Grand Army of the Republic. As the familiar order collapses and a new regime rises, the series reframes galactic history through the eyes of soldiers who were bred for obedience, but slowly discover individuality, doubt, and moral conflict. Rather than focusing on Jedi legends or Sith mythology, the narrative remains grounded in the personal consequences of political change, making the fall of the Republic feel intimate and deeply human. The Bad Batch, also known as Clone Force 99, consists of Hunter, Tech, Wrecker, Crosshair, and later Echo, each enhanced with specialized abilities that made them elite during wartime. Hunter possesses heightened senses and leadership instincts. Tech is intellectually gifted with superior analytical skills. Wrecker has immense physical strength. Crosshair is a deadly sharpshooter with extreme focus, and Echo, once a regular clone, is rebuilt with cybernetic enhancements after surviving severe injuries. These differences once made them invaluable assets, but when the war ends and the Empire begins enforcing uniformity, their uniqueness becomes a liability. The clones around them begin to change under the influence of inhibitor chips, while the Bad Batch struggles to understand why they feel disconnected from the new order. The series opens at a moment of shock and confusion as Order 66 is executed across the galaxy. The Bad Batch witnesses the sudden betrayal of the Jedi, sensing that something is deeply wrong even if they do not fully grasp the reason. This event immediately establishes the central tension of the show: loyalty versus conscience. Crosshair, whose inhibitor chip remains effective, becomes increasingly aligned with the Empire's commands, while the rest of the team begins questioning their purpose. This ideological fracture within the squad creates emotional weight, transforming former brothers in arms into potential enemies and reinforcing the tragedy of clones being stripped of free will. A major emotional anchor of the series is Omega, a young, unaltered clone who joins the team early on. Unlike the others, Omega was not designed for combat, but instead represents innocence and potential. Her presence challenges the Bad Batch to redefine themselves not just as soldiers, but as guardians and mentors. Through Omega, the story examines themes of family, belonging, and choice. She becomes the moral compass of the group, often pushing them to help others, even when survival would suggest running. Her growth from a sheltered child into a capable and courageous individual mirrors the Bad Batch's own journey toward self-determination. As the Empire consolidates power, the series introduces the gradual replacement of clone troopers with recruited soldiers. This shift is portrayed not as a clean transition, but as a cold and calculated decision that discards the clones after they have served their purpose. Episodes explore clone decommissioning, reprogramming, and neglect, highlighting how the Empire views its forces as expendable tools rather than individuals. This narrative choice adds a layer of tragedy, showing that the clones are victims of a system that created them solely for war and then abandoned them once peace, or at least control, was achieved. The animation style of the Bad Batch emphasizes cinematic framing, detailed environments, and expressive character work. Planetary settings range from familiar worlds to new locations that expand the Star Wars universe without relying heavily on nostalgia. Action sequences are intense and tactical, reflecting the squad's military expertise, while quieter moments allow character relationships to breathe. Facial expressions, body language, and subtle pauses are used effectively to convey emotion, particularly in scenes dealing with loss, betrayal, and uncertainty. The visual tone often leans darker than earlier, animated Star Wars series, reinforcing the sense that this era is defined by shadows and moral ambiguity. Throughout its run, the series carefully weaves connections to broader Star Wars lore without overwhelming the core story. Familiar faces appear, not as fan service, but as natural extensions of the timeline. These encounters often reinforce the consequences of the Empire's rise, showing how various characters adapt, resist, or succumb to the new regime. The Bad Batch frequently finds itself caught between larger forces, undertaking mercenary work, rescue missions, and covert operations simply to survive. Each job adds another layer to their understanding of the galaxy and their place within it. Crosshair's arc stands out as one of the most complex and emotionally charged elements of the series. His loyalty to the Empire is not portrayed as simple villainy, but as a tragic result of conditioning, pride, and isolation. Over time, his experiences force him to confront the reality of the Empire's cruelty and his own role in enforcing it. This slow, burning internal conflict adds depth to the narrative, illustrating how difficult it is to break free from indoctrination even when the truth becomes impossible to ignore. His relationship with the rest of the squad remains strained, defined by regret, resentment, and the lingering bond of brotherhood. Teich's development brings intellectual and emotional nuance, as his logical worldview is gradually challenged by situations that cannot be solved through data alone. He begins to understand that human connections and ethical choices often defy calculation. Wrecker, while initially portrayed as comic relief through his strength and enthusiasm, reveals a softer side rooted in loyalty and protectiveness, particularly toward Omega. Hunter's role as leader is constantly tested as he balances keeping his family safe with doing what feels morally right. Echo, haunted by his past as a regular clone, struggles with identity and purpose, embodying the broader clone experience of being reshaped by forces beyond one's control. The pacing of the series allows space for episodic storytelling while maintaining an overarching narrative. Some episodes focus on standalone missions, giving insight into the everyday struggles of life under the Empire, while others push the main plot forward with significant consequences. This structure reinforces the feeling that the galaxy is vast and unpredictable, and that survival often depends on adaptability rather than heroics. Over time, the stakes escalate, and the cost of each decision becomes heavier, reinforcing the idea that freedom is rarely won without sacrifice. The final stretch of the series brings its themes to a focused and emotional conclusion. The question of what it truly means to be free takes center stage, as the Bad Batch confronts the reality that running forever is not a solution. Choices made earlier in the story come back with lasting consequences, and not every character is guaranteed a happy ending. The narrative avoids easy resolutions, instead emphasizing growth, accountability, and the enduring impact of bonds formed in hardship. The ending reinforces that even in an era dominated by tyranny, small acts of defiance and compassion can leave lasting marks on history. From a factual standpoint, the series spans multiple seasons released over several years, allowing the story and its audience to mature together. Its production reflects a clear commitment to character-driven storytelling within the Star Wars framework. Voice performances, particularly the portrayal of the clones, are central to the show's success, as subtle shifts in tone and delivery distinguish characters who are genetically identical yet emotionally distinct. The consistency of performance strengthens the illusion of individuality, reinforcing one of the series' core messages. Trailer material for The Bad Batch emphasized its darker tone, high-stakes action, and emotional depth, setting expectations for a story that would explore the cost of war rather than glorify it. The marketing highlighted the squad's unique abilities, the introduction of Omega, and the looming presence of the Empire, effectively positioning the series as a bridge between familiar eras. This approach helped establish the show as both accessible to longtime fans and welcoming to newer viewers interested in character-focused science fiction. Ultimately, Star Wars: The Bad Batch stands as a meditation on identity, loyalty, and choice in a universe often defined by grand destinies and mythic conflict. By focusing on clones who were never meant to choose their own paths, the series reframes the Star Wars saga through a more personal and reflective lens. It shows that history is not only shaped by heroes and villains, but also by those who struggle quietly to do the right thing when the world around them demands obedience. The Bad Batch's journey from soldiers to individuals leaves a lasting impression, adding emotional weight and thematic depth to the broader Star Wars timeline.